Hello, this is the GivEnergy App walkthrough that we're providing from Apex Doma, just to give you a bit of an idea of how the app's going to work post handover. So to start off with, you'll be presented with the home dashboard. If we look top left, we've got three bars. We've got a home dashboard, smart plug, smart tariff, and EV charging. So I'm pressing on home dashboard to start ourselves off with. So if you look top left, we've got the home setting. If you're connected locally to inverter, the app will update every 30 seconds. If you're in the away settings, it updates just over every 5 minutes. We have the solar panel that's at the top. That's generating 2.5 kilowatts on my roof. The center is the house, so that's how much your house is using in real time. So obviously it's updating every 5 minutes. So that's 456 watts, and I'm exporting 2.1 kilowatts that's charging away on my battery. You'll notice my house is still drawing 42 watts in from the grid. This is just to be able to convert the electricity. So this is the power that the actual inverter needs in order to be able to convert the electric from DC through to AC. So there is a little tiny weeny bit of wastage that does happen with this. That's perfectly normal. If I just click my update on my app as well, we'll be able to see any changes. So you see the conversions drop down there slightly. It's not using as much on the grid drawdown top right. What you'll notice, I've got a green leaf, so this is how carbon efficient your energy is that's being purchased for your house. So if you're charging at night, normally it's a little bit better for the environment if you can charge at night. You know how good it is by the colour of the leaf. If it's green, then that's always the best. You'll notice there I've got a little smart light bulb that tells me how much energy I'm using in real time. So if we go on the left hand settings, I'm not going to press the light bulb because it doesn't load very well when I'm doing these screen recordings. But if you press it in real terms, if you just click on smart tariff on this option, so top left hand 3 bars, and do this, it tells you what what smart information. So this links with Octopus Energy. In order to link it, so when you look, it'll ask you for some information to link. So you select your tariff provider. Different tariff providers give different levels of information. I'm with Octopus, so this is specifically for Octopus, and so I can't give you individual advice about different suppliers, but I'm with Octopus Flux for my house, so I don't have an EV charger. Normally Octopus Go is the best for EV charging because you get cheaper nighttime rates, and then you're just looking to maximize your export. But for the benefit of this video, I'm with Octopus Flux. In order to be able to set this up on the app, you're going to need an API key, which can be gathered from your online Octopus portal. You need your account number, and you need your generation meter number, and a couple of other bits and bobs as well that they want you to fill in. So you fill in that information, and this information is now linking with the Octopus portal. So in real time, I can see how much I'm spending. So you see there, today I've spent £1 and I lost the last 31 days. I've spent £11 on electricity. If I toggle across to the export, you can see there in the last 7 days I've spent £7 on grid electricity, but in the last 31 days, this is how much I've sold out to the grid. I've sold £7 of electricity. In the last 31 days I've sold £40. So I've spent 11 quid, I've sold 40 quid. With the standing charge at 40 pence or whatever it is, I've made money this month, which is always a good thing. If I go back onto my home dashboard, if you look right at the bottom, that's my battery's percentage state, so that's how much my battery's charged. If we go along to the lightning bolt, this gives you information regarding peak power. So this, if you've got your view settings, 24 hours, and we've got our date settings, so we can select a date. So I'm just going to go for the 1st of June on this. This tells you how much the solar panels are generating in real time. Solar panels don't consistently generate electricity. So if we get cloud coverage, it'll drop all the way down to 0. So you can see here we're generating hardly anything, and then all of a sudden 10 minutes later it's generating nearly 3 kilowatts. That's perfectly normal behavior for solar panels. We can see what my house has done with that, so how much energy my house has used throughout the day. We can then see what battery charge was happening. So you'll see here, as the solar's been generating, my battery's also been charging up as well, and then what the grid's done at that point in time as well. You'll sometimes know some peak spikes that are going out. This is normally because you've turned a kettle or something on that's drawn a huge amount of current in a very short period of time. Can take a couple of seconds for the inverter just to be able to recognize that, pick that up, and then start converting energy. It can take a couple of seconds for that action to happen, so it is quite normal. Sometimes if you're using a big peak power shower, for example, or cooker, then that can take a while to be able to convert. If I look on the bottom grids, that's the lightning bolt. If I go on this 3-bar chart, I can now see, if I go back onto the 1st of June, we can see what my house was doing on the 1st of June. So on the graph that you can see at the top left-hand corner, we've got our date range. So that's how much, that's essentially what our date was at the point in time of looking for this information. Again, we've got daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and how you want to view this information. Blue is battery storage, yellow is solar, red is grid drawdown. So you see there, I have used 0.68 of a kilowatt, but that's, as I say, normally where I've put a big load on all at one period of time. It's normally around tea time where I've put an oven on, I've put a few other bits and bobs on and gone from there. What we've then got is next one across is solar panels. So we've got generation to home, we've got generation to battery. So that's how much my solar panels have generated. So you can see pretty much on that day, because I had a bit of available capacity, I've used quite a bit within my home, and I've pretty much absorbed all the energy that we've generated on the roof into my house on that day. So you can see how much my house and my battery's used. Third one across is how much has been used into my battery, and then how much my battery is exported out is bottom left hand corner. Grid export, grid import, essentially, or grid export, grid import. I'll be honest with you, I only ever use the top three for information. If you wanted to select, say, a full month's worth of date, you just select your date range, click save in, and that gives you information about what your house has used. So I used 363 kilowatts, but you can also see there that I generated 370 kilowatts. So it gives you information regarding what's happened in the month. If I go back to the home screen, update my settings, refresh it. If I go into top right hand corner, this gives you information regarding battery charging. As standard, it comes selected with solar. You need to normally select solar and grid if you want to make the use of cheaper nighttime rates. So it's quite important if you want to make the use of cheaper nighttime rates. So I currently pay about 20 pence per kilowatt hour, but if you pay, for example, Octopus Go 9.5 pence per kilowatt hour, you want to make sure this is set up. So this is particularly useful in the winter. So you'll notice there I put solar and grid. Depending on the tariff you're on, I'm on Octopus Flux, so it's cheap from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. I normally charge up to at least 40%, because what you find is if you've got a cloudy day the following day, you'll draw everything from the grid if you're not careful. You always want to make sure there's a minimum charge of 40%. If you go in from the night before, it's say 60 or 70% worth of charge within your battery, that's not such a big problem, because it won't it won't dump the power and then charge it from 0 to 40. It will just not charge at all if you've got at least 40% in your battery. So it's just more of a safety net. Depending on which generation of inverter you've got, you see at the bottom there, I've got a charge power of 2,600 watts. Mine's the Generation 1 inverter. If you're on the Gen 2 or Gen 3, that will show 3.6 kilowatt. The one below is a dynamic discharge mode. So if you want to make the most, again, start time and end time, and if it's just a meeting home demand or full export, this is where if you're getting paid a really high price during peak times like the Flux export does, you can essentially dump all the power that's in your battery out to the national grid and get paid a higher price for it. I'll be honest with you, I set mine at a dynamic, and you'll see there I've got 4% reserve charge. If I go now bottom right hand corner into battery settings, I've got 59% worth of charge. We've got a voltage that's really just useful for engineers. It's not a great deal of use. You'll notice there the temperature of my battery is 24 degrees, normally quite regular to sit higher than the outside static state. That's because energy is being converted and the battery is generating some heat. You can see more information here. The internal temperature is 31 degrees, so it's higher again. And then we've got a battery percentage, 58%. My capacity says 9.4 kilowatts. That's because I've set a reserve up of 4%. You'll see if I go top right hand corner on that cog again, it says 4% reserve. That's perfectly normal. Again, there's some information regarding the battery settings here. So if I just select 1st of June, blue is essentially where I've drawn power into my house, and green is the battery settings state, so how much battery charge I've got at any point in time. So you see there I entered the night with 45%. So I've not used any of that backup system I've got to draw anything from the grid. I've gone charged up to 100% in the process that I'm doing now, and then as I got to tea time and by the end of the day, I left the day with 35% to start that cycle all over again. That's the GivEnergy app. If you have any questions, any queries for me at all, please feel free to fire away. The one last thing I was going to say is if you swipe down, that's what you use in order to be able to refresh the information. So you see now I'm generating a little bit less, but in the time that I've been on this call, we've certainly put a few percent in the battery. There is EV charger and smart plugs. If you want smart plugs, that's a separate video, and EV charging is also the same, covered under a separate video as well. So feel free to ask the office for more information if you want more information about those sections. Other than that, thank you very much for taking the time to purchase the system through Apex Doma. If you have any other questions or queries at all, please feel